Ladies, are you the one who gets it all done? Always pushing forward? Always striving? In the constant chase for success, when was the last time you took a moment just for you? We're always on the go, rushing from one task to the next, barely pausing to catch our breath. What if we took a moment to pause? Imagine listening in, really listening, to the wind, to your heartbeat, to your soul. What if slowing down was the key, a chance to discover a deeper connection with yourself? And from that connection expand it to those you love, to the moments that truly matter. Pause, reflect, connect. It's time to live fully from the inside out. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to A Soulful Pause. I'm Josette Diaz, and I am a self-awareness coach for women in midlife. And I do that through creative strategies. And one way to start revealing your truest self to you, to bring that into your consciousness, is to use creative strategies and work with me in the Art of Awareness membership. This month, we are talking about heart-centered congruency. And this is where we're examining where we are aligned and misaligned in our heart center with our values and the things that we truly believe, not what we've been told, what we believe. So I have a beautiful guest for you this morning, and I am going to be speaking to Diane Wyzga. I know I'm mispronouncing it. I'm going to have Diane come in and correct my pronunciation. And Diane is a phenomenal story architect, and she works with women, and she has some very powerful things to say. And I am going to bring her in right now so that you have the pleasure of listening in. Diane. Okay,
Nice to see you.
yes, I'm the worst at pronouncing names, and so could you please give us the pronunciation of your last name?
Yes, it's Wyzga, like
Wyzga.
wizard. And I know it looks like a radio station, WYZGA, broadcasting over the airwaves of Whidbey Island, Washington. But don't apologize because that is my family's name. It's Polish. And I have heard every single pronunciation you can imagine over the course of my life. So, so
I
Wyzga,
understand. I know.
Wyzga is what it is.
That's great. I know I get the same thing with my first name. I always want to
Mhm.
put an A in your last name, and I know it's wrong. So Diane, tell us about how you became a story architect and what drew you to helping women with story.
Well, I have to say, first of all, that I absolutely love, love, love your intro
Oh, thank
because
you.
it just sets the tone not only for what you are delivering and offering, I should say, offering to women, but it is such a reveal about who you are. And I think
Thank you.
that is what we're trying to capture this month because we are told that who we are is our why, what we're here to do. And I can tell you that the firstborn of seven kids and the oldest
Yes.
daughter, the word there is responsibility. You have to be responsible and you have to be
Hmm.
a role model to your brothers and sisters. Woof, 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 and you have to do it all and be it all and get an A. And if you don't get an A, well, and so
Yeah.
there's this expectation, especially on women,
Hmm.
and depending on the generation you came up in, the culture that you come from, the religion that you're involved in, all of that layers on these expectations of who we are supposed to be, our what
Yes.
and our why.
Hmm.
And we forget our who. So there's a lovely word, there's a lovely Scots word called smoored, and it just means to bank a fire. So if you were in Scotland and you've got a fire burning in the hearth and you're getting ready to go to bed, you would s'more the fire. So you'd bank it down.
Mhm.
You wouldn't smother it. You would just bank it so that it wouldn't flame up during the night while you were sleeping. And in the morning, the embers would be glowing hot enough so that you could add, the kindling to it and get it started again.
Mhm.
And I use that example because as I was coming up through the generations, my voice was smored. And I don't think it was an intentional bad thing, but it's
Mhm.
just the way things were, or the culture that I came up in, or the
Yeah.
church, or the school. And as a result, I didn't say what I wanted to say. I didn't say what
Mhm.
I meant and meant what I said because it wasn't encouraged. It
Yes.
wasn't encouraged. And so over years of working in different professions, as a Navy nurse,
Mhm.
as a floor nurse, eventually coming into the practice of law, I gradually regained my voice. And I think it had to have been in law school. I was
Mhm.
good at moot court. I mean, give me a podium and an argument, and I'm ready to go. And when you get reinforced that you have a voice for a reason and you can say what you mean and mean what you say,
Mhm.
then it's almost like permission.
Yes.
Permission. So along the lines, I came a story came to me, and I didn't come from a family that was deeply steeped in stories like some
Mhm.
are,
Yeah.
but in the various roles that I had, story was always there, whether I was a nurse at the bedside or being in the
Mhm.
military or being in law, and most importantly as a litigation consultant where I was helping
Yeah.
plaintiff lawyers craft the story of what happened to their clients, the death, the damage, and present that to a jury so that the jury could understand what was going on. So, along the lines of all of that, I realized that if I felt a smoring of my voice, how is it that I could use that and help other women, partner with
Mhm.
other women, and say, let's listen out. Let's listen out the story of your who, because that precedes your why.
Hmm.
How does that do?
I mean, that makes me want to take I just took a breath. It feels like a release,
Mm-hmm.
a letting go, a surrender.
Mm-hmm. That's a great word, surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's
beautiful.
um it's particularly important right now with the work that you have going on this month. You said you're focusing on values.
Mhm.
And with the work that I do, we go back to your younger times
Yes.
and sort out the values that were important to you
Mhm.
and those values that have stayed with you all your life,
Mhm.
although they too might have been smored.
Hmm.
And so I'll say, for me, there are three that are really important:
Okay.
adventure, the sense of
Yes.
adventure, backpacking Europe, walking the Camino de Santiago, heading
Yes.
on on an outward bound trekking expedition in the Rocky Mountains. So adventure is
Yeah.
important to me,
Mhm.
and justice.
Yes.
That's not fair. That's not right. Justice is
Mhm.
important to me. And finally, self expression. Say
Mm.
what you mean what you
Mhm.
say. So I'm going to
Mhm.
flip it over to you and say, what might be three that come to mind
Mm.
in your world for you?
Yes, I love that you asked me this. So first is equality,
Mm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
To me, community means connection as well, so it's wrapped in too.
Mhm.
And the third is playfulness,
Mm.
fun.
So how do those three, equality, community, and playfulness, show up in your life and in the work that you do?
I have found that for me, equality is something that has been part of my life since I was young.
Mhm.
And I believe that, you have these golden threads that follow you throughout
Exactly.
your life and also lead and are a expression of your essence underneath.
Mhm.
And so equality has been something that I've always been challenged with because it's a process of assessment, surrender, letting go of an expectation, and also then finding the truth underneath that.
Mhm.
And I would say that community connection has always been something that's been very important to me because I felt I had to always fight for that. It
Mhm.
was not automatic in
Mhm.
my life as a kid growing up, and it was the thing that I longed for. So the disappointment of not reaching those heights of connection and community make that very important to me, and I value it extremely. And so I'm always wanting to bring community and connection in. And playfulness is it just it needs to be light and easy and just fun, and it doesn't have to be a heavy, you know, there we all naturally go through nights of the soul.
Mhm.
We don't have to
Mhm.
seek them. They they will
Show up
appear.
at the front door.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. So I really enjoy just having fun and being playful with it and, you know, finding the humor in our human condition.
Mhm. It's, especially now with especially now with the circus that's in town,
Yes.
finding finding the light side of
Mhm.
anything is important, and I believe that we can we can, if even if it's something. What was I doing over the weekend? Oh, I watched Blazing Saddles again, that old movie.
Oh my gosh. It's
Just
actually
because
very funny.
it is. It is, and I think we need to do that without excuse,
Mhm.
without feeling like I'm wasting my time here, because I mean, the place that I come from is that we are stardust, that we
Mhm.
actually came here as stardust. I mean, you look at the composition of our bodies, that's kind of what we are. They're little bits of
Right.
carbon and stuff. And that we either chose this time or were invited to show up in this time in order to be something, in order to do something, in order to help the collective in some way.
Mhm.
And the quickest way I know to get people to shift or to change is through humor. Look
Mhm.
look at all
Yeah.
the comedians. And
Right?
so if we can find something that tickles our funny bone,
Mhm.
that shows us, despite that dark night of the soul where we are, that there
Right.
is something somewhere that will lighten this,
Yes.
even just a smidge. Mhm.
Yes. It really helps you process pain.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to ask you, I wanna go back because this was a question I was thinking of when I was
Mhm,
listening to you speak about, being in the Navy as a nurse, correct?
mhm,
And then, going into law
mhm.
and finding how story has woven itself around your life. Where did that start? Can you see how story, integrated itself at a young age? Where did that spark come from?
Well, I will tell you that my mother would say, that when I was really little, I would
Mhm.
tell white lies. And I will say to her, I was just practicing. And so I think part of it is nature. I have a robust imagination, and I have a strong desire to do things my way. And so I
Yeah.
will tell you, hand on heart, that I refused to use the little person potty trainer when I was
Mm.
moving from, diapers to big girl pull-ups, and that it was my desire and intention to get up on the big person's pot and use that. And that is exactly what I did. And I remember my mother saying, "Well, don't fall in because if we flush you, you're gone." And then you want to know, well, what's going to happen? Where am I going to go? Woohoo!
Adventure.
So I know, zoom, find Nemo, Diane. And so I think there was a very natural curiosity, and I love, love, love. Did I mention I love? I love to read. I love
Yeah.
to read. I
Yeah.
have my mom, my parents got me a library card when I could barely walk up the steps of the big white stone, library. And that has helped because when you are reading, you are dreaming with your eyes open, as it were. And
Mhm.
so the more I read, the more I was engaged in the world of story. So, so you start out, at the baseline. So I did dig on myself. That's that right there. Those pottery shards and things that would show up. Those are books. Those are books and those are stories that started weaving their way into me. And then
Mm.
as I matured,
Mhm.
there were stories to be told. So I say this about story: it's organic, it
Yeah.
will follow you home, it will sit
Mm.
at your table, it will sleep in your bed. And so in the Navy, I became a Navy officer because my dad had been a radioman in the Navy in World War II.
Mhm.
And so that to me was something I wanted to do when I graduated college instead of just going to a hospital. There was
Yeah.
something important about the military service, and about
Mhm.
naval service. And being a nurse in the Navy, I was a pediatric nurse, and so there you're holding up the roof for mostly mothers because
Mhm.
dads are deployed, and
Yeah.
hearing the stories of what's going on, what's going on with the family, what's going on with the child. And also there were so many stories about the men and women physicians who came into service for a time and then went back to civilian life, and what were those stories all about?
Yeah.
So if they're there, they are the stories are there. And by the time I got to litigation consulting, I had already begun platform storytelling. There was a last
Mm.
thing I'll say, there's a window of time in my life where things where the dark night of the soul not only knocked at the front door, but
Yeah.
came in and took up residence in the guest room.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and
I've
so
been there.
and haven't we all?
Yes,
And what's
exactly.
come
We all have.
and what's come out of
Mhm.
it is some sort of, not reward, but something that says you went through this
Mhm.
for some particular reason, and you
Right.
came out on the other end holding something in your hand. And so during that Black Night of the Soul time,
Yeah.
I was part of a storytelling group. We told platform stories. We told stories from the platform. I was becoming a speaker with the National Speakers Association.
Mm.
I did keynotes, and it was all around story. So
Yeah.
I taught story. I offered a storytelling course at university, and there were lawyers in my class
Mhm.
who were litigators and wanted to know how to craft a story on behalf of their plaintiff clients. They wanted to know how to communicate. So story and communication skills, go hand
Yes.
in hand.
Yes.
And so from that, I created a litigation consulting practice, which was all around how do we listen the story out of damaged
Hmm.
people who are hurt, people who are suffering, people
Right.
who have been um, hurt by the negligence of others,
Hmm.
and then share that with a jury so that they understand. And even if we didn't win at trial, which
Right.
happens, then at least the plaintiffs got a chance to tell their story and be heard.
Hmm.
I think is a big part of why we tell stories, because we want to be seen and
Yes.
heard and understood and listened to. And it
Yes.
goes all the way back to your notion of community.
Hmm.
Community. That's that is how we establish our community. That is how we
That's right.
dilute
Yes.
our righteous, opinionated, judgmental
Hmm.
sides so that there is more equality, as you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. So it's a
Yes.
long answer to your question, but it covers a lot of years.
Yes. It actually, I think that, what you just expressed, um, ex- gives the expansiveness of what story can involve and what it entails
Yeah.
and the importance of story. I mean, I'm sure you know this, that, studies show that we retain information through story.
Mm-hmm.
And so telling story, especially as a litigator, would be
Mm-hmm.
extremely important. You want the jury to remember the pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that also you touched on people wanting to be seen and heard. That
Mm-hmm.
witnessing is
Yeah,
so important for human beings to
yeah,
feel connected.
it is.
And yes,
Yeah, that notion of witnessing, as they say now,
yeah,
because as if I go back to your intro with all those lovely images of women writing, journaling,
mhm,
gazing out the window, and probably
yeah,
daydreaming.
yeah,
All of that is so nourishing
mhm,
to people generally, but to
yes,
women in particular who are tasked with holding up the roof, doing it all, being it all. And
mhm,
here we are where we have to make a deliberate decision to stop and breathe, to sit for 15 minutes and write in our journal or
yes,
sketch a dream or something.
mm,
So the work that you're doing is not only significant, but it's necessary. And I would say it's as necessary as the air that we breathe.
yes.
Hmm.
I think there isn't enough emphasis on that piece of life that we rush past constantly.
There's there's a book called A Year to Live by
Mm,
Stephen Levine. I think he has passed on now. It's a small book,
mhm,
and it came across my radar last year. I don't remember why, but it did. And I was reading it, and the idea behind it is that if we were given only 1 year to live, and this was
yes,
based on all hospice work he and his wife had done and bedside stuff and
mhm,
whatnot, how would we live differently?
mm,
So I'm reading this book and thinking, yeah, this is pretty good. I can get my own copy I got my copy from the library and then I bought my own copy.
yeah,
Well, then an online course again came across my radar.
mhm,
Coincidence is a message sent by truth, so I don't argue with these things. So starting in January, I picked up this course and it'll go till next year. And it is, it's, ooh. it's eye-opening. In the beginning, well, yeah, fine, okay, year to live. And I'm still doing my same thing. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at the calendar and wondering how come yesterday was, New Year's Day and today we're, beyond Valentine's. And what
Yeah.
I'm learning from this journaling and work is that the closer we move to the end point, and we don't know when that's going to be,
Hmm.
the more urgent it is to ask ourselves, am I living this moment the way I'm intended to live as a soulful being, as a being of light? Or will I wake up realizing, oh my gosh, all I did was tasks,
Hmm.
tasks. So I would invite your listeners to pick up a copy, check it out, because
Yes.
there's wonderful meditations in there, wonderful exercises, and you can journal to your heart's content. But
I love that.
the it's that pause that says, in fact, I'm gonna I just realized this as I was going through the journaling, that on 9/11 in 2016, I was talking with a dear, dear, dear friend of mine, and it was a
Hmm.
fellow who loved to talk on the phone. Go figure. He was just one of those people. And so here it is on September 11th in 2016, and we're talking on the phone, we're talking on the phone, we're talking on the phone. Okay, fine, now we're done talking on the phone. And a month later, on October 11th, I got an email from a mutual friend of ours that he had dropped dead from a heart
Oh,
attack.
wow.
Just bang,
Hmm.
hit the ground, and that was all he wrote. And I knew that at the time, but looking back at 2016 from 2025,
Hmm.
I went, holy shit. There were 30 days between well, it wasn't the last conversation, but the longest conversation we had, and he was gone.
Wow.
And did he know? Did he have a clue? Did he have an insight? I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't think so. And so I talked to him a lot because
Yeah.
he, as well as all of our other ancestors, are there. So I
Right.
do talk to
Yeah.
him a lot. But that just brought something home to me that said, all right, hello, how
Yes.
how are you being you? How are you being your who, not your
Hmm.
why? How are you being your who?
Hmm. Mm. That requires a pause to really think about that.
Hmm.
Is this how you approach story with women that you gather and that you assist in bringing out their story? Do you do you get them to sort of like really ponder their who before they write?
You have to go in through the back door
Mm.
because, by and large, my clients don't necessarily want what I call an origin story. They might
Yeah.
say, I'm putting my website together, I'm putting my about page on Substack, I have
Okay.
to deliver a keynote, and they're asking me for personal stories to sprinkle in there,
Yeah.
or I want some communication skills, some platform skills.
Mhm.
So that's the back door. The way we get to this who and the origin story is by gently weaving that in and saying, all right, where is it that you want to go?
Yeah.
What would you like to see at the end of the road?
Mhm.
How are you feeling right now in your life story, especially if you're at a crossroads? And
Mhm.
I expect you find this much with the women that you coach in mindfulness.
Yes. Yes.
If you're at a crossroads, what does that look like? And how come the clothes that you've been wearing don't fit? How come the shoes feel too tight? What is it about the space that you're in right now? And so you kind of go in through a back door, but it always, always, always leads back to, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? And then you mine the early years, troubling or not, for the the compost, the banana peels and the orange rinds and the bread crusts that become the fertilizer,
Mm,
become the fertilizer of our life. Because everybody's got compost. The question becomes, what are you going to do with the compost?
that's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, where does it go after that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very much aligned in the ways in which we are um, supporting ourselves, growing ourselves, and at the same
Mhm.
time supporting and growing women.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love that. I really love that. It makes me think of how many women, like you mentioned, are your shoes too tight? Why are your clothes not fitting? And when you are so busy and your life is so full
Hmm.
of the to-do list, you
Hmm.
don't notice the shoes are pinching. You're like, "Oh, these are uncomfortable," and I've got, whatever you're doing, running around,
Hmm.
checking off the list, right? And you know it's uncomfortable, you just tolerate it,
That's right. That's what we do.
right?
Suck
And
it
it
up.
exactly, it's so easy for, people in general,
Hmm.
and since we're talking about women, specifically
Hmm.
women,
Hmm.
because they are the managers of life
Hmm.
in their families,
Hmm.
and, um, and just being raised as a oldest daughter, the only daughter, the firstborn, um, I relate to a lot of that because you are the one that is responsible. Now, I didn't have 7 siblings
Six.
or 6 siblings.
Six.
I only had 2. They were twins and they were a nightmare, my brothers, but, um and, being in charge all the time, I think, lends you to skipping over yourself so easily and sort of brushing those discomforts under the rug. And, it's not just firstborn, it's women in general. People
Yes.
in general do this
Yes.
often,
Hmm.
but specifically women because
Yeah.
they are held responsible for so many,
Hmm.
not just things, people.
It's like that old line, I've done so much for so long with so little that now I can do anything with
Yeah,
nothing.
right. Yes.
That's our t-shirt. And there's a certain pride in that.
Mhm.
There's a certain um, what's the word I want? I don't know. There's a certain gain, I suppose,
Yeah,
in being sufficient that way, self-sufficient.
right.
If we balance, if we balance all of that, and
Mhm.
I'm finding, as I imagine you do, that the balance is coming later in life,
Yes.
where we recognize that we have choices. We always have a choice,
Mhm.
always have a choice. The question
Right,
is, what are the consequences that come with the choice, and are we willing to accept the consequences? And it
right.
doesn't have to be burdensome. I mean, you get married or you stay single, you have children or you don't, you get a cat instead of a dog.
Yeah,
Always comes with something.
right.
So here we are, I think, as we're moving into what I call middle earth age. Don't even
Mm.
begin to ask me my chronological age. Don't, because it doesn't exist. So it doesn't. It's not anywhere that you can find. My mom was there. She's passed on. So, hey, But
Yeah.
as we approach middle earth age, I think that we really start to say, well, wait a minute. I have done so much. I
Mhm.
have done so much. And how do I take what I have done and accomplished and achieved and want to and turn that around so that the it's focused on me? Not 100% because we all
Yeah.
have duties and responsibilities and
Mhm.
obligations, but where where can all this beingness that
Mhm.
I am show up in a way that nourishes me and my soul?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, in addition to that, there's so many women that feel inadequate
Mhm.
in other areas because they have diminished even themselves in the duties or the responsibilities that they've managed. And I remember feeling this way when I left my career in healthcare to stay home and be a mother and raise my children.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was a huge transition. It really messed with my mind, my self-esteem, because I had put my self-esteem into my job and made that the owner of my self-esteem. And so I had to reorganize myself and find a different way. And I think that women, if we can step back and look at all that we have done up to now and recognize the skill set, the finesse, the diplomacy, the love, the care, the nurturing that it takes to be able to be that woman equals so many other attributes that can rise from that and shift who you think you were and really start to become who you are truly within and see how powerful that is.
I um I love language.
Mm,
Just love, love, love language, and I can't
yeah.
help but um, reflect what's fallen on my ear: finesse, diplomacy,
Mhm.
grace. We
Yeah.
don't think about ourselves in those terms. We think about accomplishment,
Right.
achievement, perfectionism, responsibility,
Yes.
but to look at our lives with soft eyes of
Mhm.
grace and see the finesse, see the
Yeah.
diplomacy, see the beauty, and not just see it, but allow ourselves to be wrapped in it like a cloak.
Yes.
The cloak we throw over our shoulders and say, wow,
Right.
look at me.
Yes. It's so
Wow.
true.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's, um there's some statistics that I can't recall off the top of my head in the moment, yet it's, there's a book or a study about, when people pass away, the thing that they think about on their deathbed is not all the things they accomplished, it's that they wish they would have been who they truly were, what they
Yeah,
really wanted, had
yeah,
the connections of the people that they loved the most,
yeah.
and took the time. And isn't that most important in life? And learning how to become yourself.
There is an exercise in Stephen Levine's book. It's called the Life Review, and you can
Mhm.
make it, I guess, as long as or as short as you want. And what he asks you to begin to do is exactly what you said. You sit
Mm.
down and you can journal, and you don't have to make a big deal out of it, but it's a
Right.
consistency where you
Yeah.
start with all of the people and the pets and the teachers, all the people in your life who are either still here or have passed on. And one by one in your mind, have a conversation with them.
Mhm.
Thank you for what you brought to my life, what you
Mm.
taught me, how you lifted me up at a time when I was, just keep going through. And I've started it. And so at the back of the journal, I've just got a list. Each time I come up with a name, I just put the name down there.
Yeah.
And you just sit and have that conversation. And when the conversation feels like it's concluded, you let them go.
Mm.
And eventually you can move into places of asking forgiveness. So you start with the good stuff, thank you,
Yes.
gratitude, this is
Yes,
good.
right, right, yeah.
And then you get into that place of having these mental conversations so that you ask forgiveness from people that you might have harmed in some way.
Mhm.
And then you get to the really dirty work, which
Yeah.
is having conversations where you forgive another. And that process of having those conversations and then they come to a close and you let them go,
Mhm.
it's almost like you're losing 20 pounds overnight, which, is pretty cool.
Yeah. I could use that.
Would be 15, I'm on it. Oh yeah. But that sense so that you are working toward what you are saying about that deathbed moment,
Mhm.
provided we get it,
Mhm.
that we
Yeah,
provided that we have the grace of a good quiet death. But we're already putting
that's
those
true.
steps into motion.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I read the exercise and went, oh man, a life review. Oh God.
How many times have I done that?
But he's very gentle with it. It can be something that, you complete in a couple of weeks and say, all right, I'm done. Or you can just continue this conversation
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. And again, what comes to mind, I think, is the word grace that I believe you mentioned, that we're treating ourselves with grace, because even if we have to ask forgiveness of another, that's
Mhm.
part of the human condition. And even if we have to forgive our used to be husband for the affair, oh, sorry. What that does is gets you to stop drinking the rat poison and wondering, how come that rat doesn't die? Oh,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot to be gained from that awareness you mentioned of the end
Mhm.
before we, go into another, whatever
Yes.
life that's going to be, and start to have those conversations, share those stories,
Yeah.
talk to the people who have gone before us, because
Yeah.
they're
The veil is thinner than we know.
there. Yeah. And I think that all they want,
Mhm.
not I don't think, I believe, all they want is to be remembered, seen,
Yes.
heard, understood, listened to. Their lessons have not stopped with their death. And so
Mhm.
the more that we pay attention to those who have gone ahead of us, whether it's our parents or our kiddies,
Yeah.
the more they are alive in our life.
Yes.
They're there. They're there. Again,
Mhm.
like that big cloak over our shoulders.
Mm. I love that, Diane.
You
It
live
is
long enough, figure
right?
this stuff out, Josette.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree. Diane, is there anything you would like to leave the audience with? And do you have anything that you would like to share that's in your work?
Well, I'm always happy to have a conversation
Yeah.
with someone and find out where's your challenge and how can I be of use.
Mhm.
My podcast is 5 years old on April 1st. That's stories from
Congratulations.
women who walk. Yes,
It's
daily
beautiful.
episodes.
Yes, it's beautiful. I put you on when I'm getting ready in the morning, and I
Oh,
listen to your
thank
stories.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's there. And Substack is being cobbled together. It's Wyzga on words. So those are some places you can learn a little bit about me and reach out for a conversation. I'm always happy
Great.
to just sit and listen. And as out here, yeah, I'm gonna leave with this. A dear friend of mine has this exercise, and
Mhm.
she says you should do it every day. But you stand in front of your mirror, and you look at yourself full in the eyes, and you start going down the alphabet A, B, C, D, and name a word that comes to mind that you are. So affectionate
Mm.
and brave and courageous and diligent, and just go all the way to the very end, and then just stand there and let all those words that are you just, you know, seep into your bones.
Mhm.
And then give that a go every day. You feel a little stupid in the beginning. I know I did, like, oh God, I'm going to do this exercise. Okay. But but the more you do it, the more playful it becomes. And the more playful words you can come up with
Mm,
in addition to all those good, responsible, nourishing words. So I would leave our conversation and your listeners with that.
I
Give
love
that a
that.
go. Give
Yes,
it a go.
that's a perfect way to pause
Mm-hmm.
for yourself. Yeah, I love
And
that.
do it soulfully. Mm.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much. It's such a wonderful, deep conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed having
Well,
with
this
you.
has been a treat for me. Thank
Yeah.
you for allowing me to share the microphone with you, Josette. This
Oh,
is
thank you.
just perfect. Just
Good. I'm
perfect.
glad you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
So, everyone, I'll be back next Thursday. And please check out Diane. Go to her Substack, book a conversation with her. I'm going to be putting all of her links into the comments, so you'll see that and have access to it. And what a pleasure! Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you.
This has been really nourishing. Every good
Yes,
wish to you, Josette.
thank you. All right, bye, everybody.